Alright, so I've been meaning to address one of the elephants in the room with the lore of Ampharis for quite a while. That is whether March 7th is Cyrene from one of the recent Honkai Star Rail trailers. There's a little saying that always comes to mind whenever I'm doing one of these like lore or theory videos, and that is, if you pull on the thread, the whole thing will unravel. I heard that once from a movie, and it really stuck with me. And this is definitely one of those situations when I started to observe the lore more and try to find all the clues that could relate Cyrene to March 7th in order to make this video. I started to realize and learn more than I had originally seen before. So let's go ahead and point out some of those things I found. But first of all, a lot of players do know that Cyrene does exist, but some people may have not picked up on that, so let's go ahead and talk about where this whole thing came from. Before we get too far, if you like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe. We cover lore, theories, we theory craft characters, meta talk, we do everything gacha as long as it's good. So as you can see from the Golden Epic trailer for Ampharis Saga of Heroes, we were introduced to a bunch of different characters for the first half of Ampharis, but you might notice that the second half characters were silhouetted. But you might also realize that that's not enough characters, so we're going to be getting even more characters than are shown in this trailer, so just keep that in mind. And that does also keep in mind that the Fate collab also exists, but there will still be some characters left over, even with the Fate collab included. So keep that in mind. Also, don't forget about what happened in the Xianzhou Luofu filler patches that we got, like 2.4, 5, you know, where we were introduced to a new general, and that general was in a silhouette in a promo, and we never got him currently as a playable character. So keep in mind, for example, this guy with the flames right here who looks super duper cool, out of all the characters I see here, he's the most likely to not get released just because they usually released humanoid-style characters, waifus, husbandos that, you know, are more humanoid. Sam is a rare exception, but Sam has a waifu variant in the form of Firefly, so that's a character they know will sell. Just keep that in mind. Just because it's a silhouetted character doesn't necessarily mean we're getting all of them. But if you pay attention down here in the description, so we have been shown in order during this trailer. All of these characters going from left to right were all shown to us in order. We have Aglaia, we have Tribi, Anaxa, Hyacine, Maide, Cypher, Castris, Finan, and then hopefully I don't say these names wrong. These ones are harder. Hysalins, and then we have Seridra, right? And you might notice the two whited out names. For whatever reason, they have been whited out, and they are the two people in the middle right here. This one right here on the left middle looks like it's probably Cyrene, but at the same time, it's really hard to tell whether it is her 100%. This might be a bit of a red herring, where it might look like her, but it might not quite be like her. For example, when you look at the mannerisms of Cyrene in the other promotional footage we have of her, she doesn't do this type of pose, and it seems like it doesn't seem like a type of pose that like March 7th or Cyrene would do based on what we've seen so far. Of course, we could be totally wrong on that, okay? I just wanted to point that out to you guys. But another thing is, if this one here, middle left, is supposed to be Cyrene, when you look at the blocked out name, this is way too long for Cyrene. We know this because the girl named Cyrene has a voice actor named here, and they weren't named up here in this particular section, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Because if Cyrene is supposed to be this long blocked out name, that doesn't fit, right? Cyrene is way too small of a name. It's only like half the size of this name right here, which makes me believe Cyrene might be a character that is not even shown in this particular silhouetted section here. They might be bamboozling us a little bit and surprising us with yet another character that we have not necessarily seen up to this point. Meaning that big boy with the flames has a relatively short name. But again, this could just be a red herring. They could be fooling us with this blocked out name, trying to throw us off, realizing that Cyrene fits more likely in the second part right here. So I just wanted to point that out, that despite some of these clues that we have, Hoyo might be trying to leave some clues, but they also might be trying to leave some red herrings to try to fool us. And I mean, look, when you compare Cyrene and March 7th together visually, there is a very, very distinct and clear resemblance there. They even share the same color scheme. Now, you might be saying just because it looks like March 7th doesn't mean it has to be March 7th. Well, duh. That's the whole reason why it's a theory and not a fact. We don't know 100%. That's why we're here to try to discuss it. But again, that resemblance is pretty uncanny. Alright, I gotta interrupt myself real quick here because I noticed some stuff while I was editing here. So if you take a look at the way that March 7th's jacket is cut, it's a very specific and unique design. It's low cut, it hangs off, it has these interesting folds right here that you can see. And when we compare them to Cyrene's, it is literally the exact same style jacket. It's not quite the same color scheme, but let's go ahead and observe it some more. You see these buckles and things like that on the back. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other imagery here. I took a couple of screenshots. You see you have them in the exact same spot with March. Let's look at a couple of more. So here we are with Cyrene, right? Cyrene with the two little I guess buckles or whatever helping hold it up. Then you take a look at March 7th, and you got the exact same thing going on with March 7th's jacket. And you can see that the sleeves of this jacket hang in kind of a droopy sort of way, almost like the sleeves of a wizard's robe or something like that. And you see the same thing going on with Cyrene. Cyrene's is just, again, slightly different. Hers is longer, but you can see the resemblance. I don't know if you noticed this crystal on the back of Cyrene's jacket as well. It is very similar to the crystals that we see on March 7th's outfit as well. So the more I look at this, the more resemblances I see with the two of these characters' designs. You also see this is an embroidered fabric version of that same crystal. And I don't know if you'll notice, but this is the symbol for the Oniric shards in the game as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But I wanted to point out an interesting similarity with Cyrene as well, because I'm going to make some comparisons with Cyrene and Mem. You know, me, Mem, later on in the video. This is a feather, right, with a piece of golden embroidery. And when we take a look at I guess the pen that we ended up getting when we got the remembrance path during the main story, this is a feather with a piece of golden embroidery or emblem on it or whatever, I guess you could say. It's a pen, but it's in the same exact style as what you see with Cyrene as well. So we'll talk about Mem in a little bit and the Oniric shards in a little bit. I just wanted to point this out because I felt like it was important. When we take a look at what March 7th has been doing on the Astral Express, while we've been hanging out on Amphorius with Don Hung, a guy who currently can't speak for some reason, she's been doing absolutely nothing, okay? She's been sitting here farting in her bed the entire time while we've been out there saving the world, you know what I'm saying? And I need to point this out because a lot of people did point this out to me, and so I decided to look into it. People were telling me that Mem acts a lot like March 7th does if March 7th would have been on the adventure with us on Amphorius. So I decided to read those voice lines, and all I heard was me, Mem, me, because apparently they're a Pokemon that only knows how to say their own goddamn name. But when you actually read the dialogue that is there, when you decipher it, it does actually sound a lot like what March would be saying if March was on the, adventure with us. And that's a pretty distinct personality. There's nobody else really in the game with a personality like March. So the fact that Mem is acting so similarly is definitely something interesting. I also want to point out that after I realized this, I have noticed Mem does not remember their own past. There's only two characters in the whole game like that, Don Hung Ibibiter Lune and March 7th. And March 7th takes note of a lot of the stuff that they experience in their life now through pictures. That's why she's taking pictures all the time. That's why we have her camera on Amphorius to take pictures for her so she could experience everything later on, because she doesn't remember anything and she doesn't ever want to experience that again. If she ever loses her memories again, she can look to the photos and then she can kind of try to remember everything, right? Notice that Mem is always in their book, taking note or reading up on all of these different things. Probably because they don't really remember their past as well, and they want to take note of these different things. It's a very similar behavioral pattern to March 7th. Mem acts a lot like a Mem-O keeper. which we have been theorizing since 1.0 that March 7th might also be a memo keeper who simply doesn't remember their own past. In order to prevent this video from being way longer than it has to be, I'll hope that you guys can recall that side mission that we did with March 7th, where we found out a bit more about her past, where she encased herself in 6-phase ice in order to protect herself from some major calamity or something like that that happened way back in the day. Something similar to what may have happened with Amphoris and its past as well. And it's interesting that we needed a memo keeper, specifically we used Black Swan, in order to even see this place at all. Amphoris is hidden from the rest of the world. And the story we're basically told about how March 7th was found is that it seemed like she was just found sort of in the middle of nowhere in space, encased in some 6-phase ice that she must have obviously created on her own because she has that ability. But if Amphoris is hidden to everybody else in the world except for like a memo keeper or something like that, couldn't March 7th have been picked up literally right next to Amphoris without us even realizing it? The Astral Express may have just not known it was even there because they can't see it unless they are a memo keeper. It's even possible that Black Swan may have picked up on this, or might even know more than she's letting on, and might be why, or part of why, she has directed us to go to Amphoris, because she is the one that told us to go there. It was all her idea. We wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Black Swan. And Black Swan, she wants those nice, juicy memories. She wants a beautiful story to remember forever, right? That's how she operates. So if she just goes and tells us, hey, you know that March 7th, that crazy annoying girl that's been with you the whole entire time? Yeah, she's actually a memo keeper, and you should go to Amphoris to like get her memories or whatever. She's never been like that. She always kind of like acts from the shadows to some degree, sort of like pushing the narrative along, but having the main character and the main Star Rail crew figure things out for themselves to some degree. Because again, she wants those juicy memories, not just some plain Jane kind of thing where she tells you exactly where the hidden treasure is. So it seems like Black Swan might have multiple reasons for having come to Amphoris, not just because Amphoris in a way needed our help, but it could also be because she's helping out a fellow memo keeper in the form of March 7th to hopefully try to get their memories back. And if you guys saw my theory going over like the whole Annihilation Gang and connections to Constance, there could even be connections with that as well. Black Swan might be sort of like just with one single shot hitting a whole bunch of different tasks at the same time. And if you know anything about Fuli, Fuli is the Aeon of the Remembrance and was connected with that side quest we had with March 7th way back in the day, which is one of the main reasons we felt like March 7th was secretly a memo keeper that we just didn't know about, because March 7th doesn't even remember about it. So it seems like Fuli has been keeping an eye on March 7th for quite some time now, and again, this all connects to Amphoris, why we're there in the first place, especially because you need the Path of Remembrance essentially to even be there in the first place. On top of that, we just started getting the Remembrance meta and Remembrance characters in the game, so it makes a lot of sense that if March 7th ever gets a 5-star version, that it's probably going to be a Remembrance character, considering we all think at this point, if we believe into the theory that is, that March 7th is a memo keeper that just doesn't remember that she is. Alright, I gotta interrupt myself here real quick because I noticed something while editing and doing the 3.0 main story. This location we are in right now has only been used a select few times. If there's any other times you can think of, please let me know because I'm genuinely curious, but the only times we've ever been here is when we are either meeting with an Aeon, or like here as an Emanator, or here during this side quest with March 7th. We were here when we ended up gaining the powers of the preservation when we met with Clip-Off, who is an Aeon, and so we essentially met their gaze. We also were here with the Herta when the Herta was trying to meet with the Aeon of the Air Edition. So I find this very interesting because, as far as I know, the only times we've ever been here is to meet an Aeon or something of the like. So being here with March 7th side quest, yes, this was tied to an Aeon in some way, the Aeon of the Remembrance Fully, but it makes you wonder if March 7th really is actually Cyrene and just doesn't remember it, and maybe Cyrene is an emanator of the Remembrance. That would be kinda wild. Anyways, back to the video. And I also want to point out some symbology going on with March 7th. You'll notice that her entire color scheme is baby pink, baby blue, and white, which just so happens to be the color scheme of one of the icons we can see related to the Remembrance in some way. We see this icon all over the place on like Black Swan's aesthetic. It's literally on her body. It's literally in her splash art. It's even in the crystal ball of Black Swan's splash art. And it's also on March 7th as well. You'll notice as well that the symbol for the Oniric shards in the game, which is a payable currency, also shares not only the same color scheme, but the exact same symbol as well. On top of that, she has a camera with her so that she can keep her memories with her all of the time. March 7th just screams the Remembrance, which, as we've all been theorizing for a long time, she's likely a memo keeper as well, similar to Black Swan. And I don't know if you guys noticed when we got the Remembrance path fully gazed upon us, which is how you gain a new path ability as a trailblazer. It's also how you become an emanator as well. And just for clarification's sake, because an Aeon looks at your general direction doesn't mean it's going to randomly make you an emanator. They have to what's called gaze upon you, essentially gift you that ability. Now, while this does help us tie March 7th to the Remembrance in some way, I was also trying to find the symbol potentially on Cyrene because that could help just like crack the case completely, right? Even though we do feel strongly about it. But unfortunately, Hoyoverse has done a really good job of sort of covering up Cyrene. You never get a good look at her from the front, and the only back image we have of her, really, you can't get a good look at the symbol that's on her back, which is in the same place that March 7th has a similar symbol, but unfortunately she's covering up part of it with her arm, so I can't definitively say yes or no whether that is kind of trying to resemble an Oniric shard. It does look like it, but unfortunately it's not definitive at this time. Alright, I gotta interrupt myself again here because I recognized that we had something else at the end of the 3.0 main story involving Herta, when she ended up capturing a member of the Garden of Recollection who is tied to the Remembrance and fully directly. You might recognize this unnamed character because that's actually who's been chilling on the Astral Express the entire time, ever since the first time we ever had access to the Memory of Chaos. So this is a very interesting narrative. I don't know where this is going to go, but it's going to involve this character, Herta, you know, Cyrene, March 7th. This is a whole big like spaghetti meatball going on here. So we have the fact that Cyrene and March 7th literally look like each other. We have at the end of the 3.0 story when Fianan is going through his trial, he has a flashback and he sees his past, and Cyrene is there, who is in some way connected to Fianan. And Cyrene, something really, really bad happened to Cyrene, just like something really, really bad happened to March 7th in the past too, obviously connecting the dots between the two of them there as well. We have the fact that March 7th is clearly directly tied to the Remembrance and Fully as a whole. We have the fact that a lot of these second half characters are probably going to be very, very strong characters as well, and Cyrene is likely going to be one of them based on what we know about the releases so far. Also, Hoyoverse is clearly foreshadowing something big with Cyrene. They're also foreshadowing something big with March 7th, a character that just so happens to look exactly like her, right? And do you guys remember that Welt and Sunday dipped out to go get help from the Herta, an emanator, to help out with the situation, right? Because they lost communication with the members that are down on Amphoris, but also to help out with March 7th specifically because of what's going on with her. They've lost communication with the main crew on the planet before. This happened on the Xianzhou Luofu. They didn't send a fucking emanator to deal with the problem. No, they maybe sent like another Astral Express member down there. If it was just, oh hey, we lost communication, that's kind of normal, right? Like Amphoris, right? That's an area that like you need a Remembrance Path member to even get to itself. So it makes sense you would lose communication with them down below. If March 7th wasn't in the state that she's in, they wouldn't have gone to go get a fucking emanator, bro. Anyways, I think you guys can see where I'm going with this, because at this point, if March 7th is not Cyrene, based on all of the information that we currently have piecing this whole thing together, every single one of us is going to be massively disappointed with this entire situation, bro. I mean, think about it. If you're in a car and the driver says, all right, guys, we're going to New York City, and then all of a sudden, frickin' 25 hours later, all of a sudden you wake up and you're in Tampa Bay, Florida, you're gonna be a little bit pissed off about that, aren't you? Bro, like, dude, like, okay, listen. So, like, this is the road that they are leading us down, okay? Hoyoverse is the driver and we are the passenger right now. And the scenery all says March 7th is Cyrene coming up in 7 miles. If this car does not end at the desired destination, we are going to be pissed off, okay? And, dude, and Forest 3.0 has already been kind of dropping the ball a little bit. Hoyoverse has the opportunity to cook. I can tell that 3.0 was mostly just a setup patch. It still didn't feel very good, but hopefully this March 7th and Cyrene thing is one of the really cool payoffs that hopefully Hoyoverse is cooking towards. If you pay attention to the deep lore of Forest, we're getting some pretty cool stuff coming down the line. It's a matter of whether Hoyoverse will execute well on these things or not that really matters. And I genuinely think, based on everything that we've gone through in this video so far, that March 7th is very, very likely to be Cyrene. Can I guarantee that? No, I can't say that 100%, but I do feel very confident in that now after having gone through all of this information. And I'm sure there's probably something I may have missed. So if there is anything you think I missed, put that down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation, whether you think March 7th is Cyrene, if you think we're going to be getting March 9th coming up soon, or if you think I'm just some idiot with a microphone. Anyways, you guys like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.